Hello there, Strahd lovers! If you've seen any video on my channel, you'll know that I'm a massive fan of both D&D and horror fiction. So when the newest D&D book, Ravenloft: The Horrors Within, released about a month ago, I was a very happy little ghoul. So naturally, I knew that I had to make a video about it on this channel. So in this video, I'm gonna go through the good, the bad, and the Cthulhu within this book. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna give you some advice on how to make Ravenloft truly terrifying for your D&D players, and the stat block of a cool homebrew monster that could help you take your Ravenloft campaign to the next level. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so my general opinion about the book, it's good. Like, really, really good. It might even be my favorite D&D book that I own. Even though it's, of course, not perfect, it has really a lot going for it. And here's the stuff I liked the most about the book that I want to quickly mention. First are the new player options. Now, I'm my group's designated forever DM and don't have a lot of experience with actually playing player characters in D&D, but the subclasses seem really fun and flavorful. My favorite subclasses in the book are probably the two new ones for the Artificer and the Ranger. The Artificer subclass, titled the Reanimator, is very obviously based on Frankenstein and other similar characters in fiction, and in my opinion, delivers on the play fantasy. This subclass gives you a reanimated companion, which is kind of like a Frankenstein's monster construct thing that you can use in combat. And it's really cool because it heals when it takes lightning damage, which is actually really clever, and also you can make it explode when it dies. That's kind of fun. The second subclass I want to talk about in this video is the new Hollow Warden Ranger, which is also, in my opinion, pretty cool. It has the benefit of not relying on Hunter's Mark, which that's a flaw that many people have had with previous Ranger subclasses in the past, but it also has really cool flavor focused around like cryptids, and if you couldn't tell by the title of my channel, I'm a massive fan of cryptids, and I think this subclass does the flavor decently well. It also has some mechanics based around the frightened condition, which is cool, but occasionally situational, but not nearly enough to make the subclass bad. Like, I'm seriously considering playing a ranger that uses this subclass. I really like it. There's also some new species in the book, mostly updated versions of the ones from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, the previous Ravenloft book, but also a new one which is like a werewolf species, and yes, I love werewolves. Werewolves are some of my favorite monsters, and I think this is a pretty good player option. Like, I really like it. There's also some cool backgrounds, and also some new dark gift feats, which are just awesome if you want to make a really spooky character, and they actually have drawbacks. That's something I find really cool. That can cause a lot of really intense and interesting roleplay moments at the table. I just love stuff like this. Oh, also, the artwork for the Aberrant Anatomy Dark Gift just brings me so much joy. I mean, take a quick look at it. Need I say more? The second thing I really like about this book is something that you've probably heard a lot from other YouTubers that have covered it. The Dark Lords have stat blocks! That's insanely cool. I'm actually flabbergasted that that wasn't in Van Richten's guide, and it just feels really sick to me that you can have like these ready-made bosses and really interesting villains for a campaign like this. Love, love, love that. Also, all of the new domains have one-shots associated with them using the one-page one-shot system introduced in the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. And I also love that a lot because it makes running a campaign where you hop between different domains so much easier. Because like all these adventures are meant for different leveled characters and you could easily string this together into a really cool campaign. The domain of Barovia actually has 2 adventures, and I'm kind of happy that they feel so different from Curse of Strahd, so that maybe you can use them if you're DMing that campaign, just like as little side quests. One of them, slight spoilers ahead, maybe skip a bit ahead in the video if you want to play that adventure, has you fighting a Minotaur skeleton with kind of Wendigo-esque flavoring. And if you've seen one of my previous videos titled Cannibal Game, it's a creepypasta based around D&D, then you'll know I'm very normal about Wendigos. Boy, wouldn't it be cool if maybe somebody homebrewed a Ravenloft domain about Wendigos at some point, and this is definitely not foreshadowing for a future video. Next, I want to talk about probably my favorite domain detailed in this book. Innsmouth. Yes, the Innsmouth from the H.P. Lovecraft book, and also the city in Massachusetts. But it's kind of unrelated to the latter thing. Yeah, let me just get that out of the way. The Dark Lord of Innsmouth is just Cthulhu. Like, literally Cthulhu. It's CR25, and if you were looking for a way to TPK your party, then check out this guy. He'll get the job done, probably. Very scary, spooky alien boy. But my favorite part of Innsmouth isn't the Dark Lord, but rather the 4 cults that operate in Innsmouth. They're each associated with different cultist stat blocks from the 2024 Monster Manual, like the Death Cultist, the Aberrant Cultist, the Fiend Cultist, and the Elemental Cultist, which I actually find kind of genius. And you can have it so that your party can actually join one of the cults. That's crazy. There's like a system called Renown, where you can get on the cult's good side by completing like little side quests for them, which is just so cool. And if you get enough renown for one of the cults, you just get a dark gift feat. And each cult has a different one associated with it. I love that so much. I'm lost for words. That's genuinely so cool. I want to run that with my party. Next, I want to quickly touch on the spooky bastions. Now, in case you're unaware, bastions are a system that was introduced in the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, where you can have your players basically just build a giant base that they can design to their liking, and this book has rules for how to make it spooky. One of my favorite new bastion facilities that you can put in your bastion in Ravenloft is called Liminal Space, and is most certainly a reference to the back rooms. I don't know, but I just love to see this kind of modern horror in an official D&D book, because typically you'd expect kind of like classic horror literature and movie tropes in this, but I really appreciate seeing this in this book. More of stuff like this, please. I really like that. This book also has some really good and helpful advice on homebrewing your own domains of Dread and Dark Lords, which is definitely something that a lot of Ravenloft DMs want to do, like make their own domain, and this book makes that a lot easier, which I also really appreciate. There's also some new scary monsters in this book, and I think a lot of them are pretty awesome. Like, there's lots of aliens and cosmic horror monsters, probably because of Innsmouth. Some of them are actually adapted from the Lovecraft mythos, which I think is thematically appropriate. Then there's a new type of relentless killer, alongside the Relentless Slasher and Relentless Juggernaut, called the Relentless Nightmare, which is 100% a reference to Freddy Krueger, and like, what more do I need to say? It's just cool. There's also stat blocks for helpful NPCs like Rudolph Van Richten as Davenir, the Weathermay Foxgrove twins, and Madame Eva. My favorite stat blocks from this book are probably the Elder Thing, which is another alien creature, the Migo, which is one of the creatures adapted from Lovecraft, the Mist Horror, which is just such a cool monster. It's like a kind of ghost thing that you fight in the mists. We needed this more encounter from when you're not in one of the domains, when you're traveling between them. Then there's the Night Gaunt, which is yet another alien creature. I'm very predictable. The Waxwork, which is so creepy, but also so cool and flavorful. It's like a wax construct that resembles another person and tries to kill that person through any means. And I also really like the stat blocks of the Weathermay Foxgrove twins. Finally, the last part of me praising this book to the abyss and back is the new Taroka deck and the rules for how to use it in your game. Sure, it gives you rules on how to do a fortune telling, like in Curse of Strahd, where that was one of the main mechanics, but it also allows you to use Taroka cards as mist talismans, because in this book each domain has an aligned Taroka card, and if a player has that Taroka card, they can use it as a mist talisman to travel to the domain it's aligned with, and I also really like that. One more thing that I want to quickly touch on is that the artwork in this book is just so gorgeous. I've probably shown a bit of it in the video, and you can probably tell why it just rules. It combines this kind of like classic dark and gothic and spooky aesthetic that you're used to from horror media with these like bright neon colors, and I think it really pops and it just looks so pleasing on the eyes. Like 10 out of 10 artwork in this book. Seriously. Okay, now that I'm done glazing Ravenloft the Horrors Within, I want to quickly mention some stuff that I wasn't the biggest fan of. The first point is a point that I see brought up a lot by other YouTubers covering the book, but there is quite a lot of stuff that's reused from Van Richten's guide. Not to the point where it feels like the book is a carbon copy, and yes, it is mostly just stuff like Dark Lord backstories that wouldn't drastically change over the course of like these two books releasing. But still, maybe they could have at least reworded it more or something, or expanded it, I don't know. Remember when I said that all the new Dark Lords have stat blocks now? While that's a really cool and necessary addition, and I also really like that they're all different CRs, I gotta complain really quickly that the stat blocks for Ivana and Ivan, the Dark Lords of the domain Borka, which is one of my favorite domains, and I love these two as characters, have CR5 stat blocks. Like, what? That's not really boss-worthy in my opinion. From a lot of Trust Me Bro sources, I've heard that most Ravenloft campaigns either start at level 3 or level 5, so there's a decently sized section of players that will never get to fight these characters just because they don't make for that challenging of bosses. It's kind of disappointing, but I guess you could just like boost up their stats or give them minions or just homebrew new stat blocks for them if you like doing that. And the final negative critique I have is about a new monster called the Unspeakable Horror. Why exactly is it a monstrosity and not an aberration? It feels like it has aberration written all over it, like it should be the textbook aberration. But it just is a monstrosity, and I frankly don't understand why. Okay. That was it for my yapping session, time to give you some actually useful advice. Okay, so I'm going to present you with an alternate interpretation of Ravenloft that I think could make it pretty damn scary. So in this interpretation, the dark powers are less of a force of nature, but more like this kind of enormous cosmic entity that doesn't have a physical form, but is simply made of the mists, like the mists of Ravenloft that you use to travel between domains. Like, that's what its body is made of. Maybe throw in a lot of the classic cosmic horror cliches, like, it's so powerful and older than the gods, but maybe avoid making it a bit too stereotypical so that your players actually still find it scary. Now, this version of the dark powers has one specific goal, which is to harvest the fear, defenselessness, surrender, and hopelessness of humanoids as a kind of food source and or power source for the domains of Ravenloft. To harvest as much of these negative emotions as possible, Ravenloft handpicks its victims. It lures specific kinds of people in, mostly the cowardly, the anxious, and especially those going through hardships that wish to leave their lives behind and lose themselves in the eternal mist. I don't know what you think, but I think that has the potential to be kind of creepy. And it also has the potential to tie player and character backstory more into Ravenloft. Because Ravenloft, or the Mists, or the Dark Powers, just this entity I've been describing, kind of shapes the surroundings of the people it's tormenting to better reflect their fears and anxieties and the horrors of their previous lives before they wandered into the mists. But not all is hopeless in Ravenloft, because there is a way of escaping and going back into the material plane, which is to confront your fears, your trauma, your anxieties head on and fight the physical manifestations of what haunts you. Only then can you finally free yourself from the horrors of the dark powers. But hang on. How would the dark powers in this interpretation consistently bring new victims into Ravenloft? Does it just kinda wait for them to wander into like a spooky shrouded foresty area? Or does it have a more direct way of bringing new people there? Well, what if I introduced you to a monster that I made myself that can serve as both a really cool ally NPC or frightening combat encounter, and also solves the problem of getting into Ravenloft in the first place and traveling between different domains? May I introduce you to the Mist Ferryman. So what do you all think of this guy? I think he's pretty cool. And I'm actually kind of proud of the stat block and lore I made for him. I'm now going to quickly give you some ideas on how to use a Mist Ferryman in your Ravenloft campaign. The first one is to take ferryman a bit more literal and give him like an actual ferry, like a boat that he can drive throughout the mists as if the fog was water, or maybe through actual water if you're playing in the Sea of Sorrows or something. These boats could maybe be like really creepy prison areas that your characters awaken at the start of the campaign and have to escape as a sort of tutorial dungeon similar to the Death House in Curse of Strahd, but maybe like a bit better. But if the players befriend a Mist Ferryman and use him to travel between domains, then maybe they could convince him to make the boat a bastion. I don't know, but I think that could be really cool. Like actually being able to take your bastion from one domain to another like this. That might be really helpful for a lot of players, and it presents a problem that the book addresses itself about bastions in Ravenloft. So yeah. Also, I just really had this cool idea. Maybe if you're playing in Darkon, where like the mists are really dangerous and slowly tearing apart everything because the Dark Lord Azalin Rex went missing, maybe in that domain, the Mist Ferrymen are also like taken over and kind of just act like feral monsters. That might be really sick. I'd actually love to run that at the table. So, anyways, that was my thoughts on Ravenloft the Horrors Within. I hope you enjoyed this video. Consider liking and subscribing if you like my spooky D&D content. And also, if you're a fan of Creepypasta, then I have a playlist of D&D based creepypastas that you can watch on my channel right now. Some of them are even kind of good. So, without further ado, stay spooky fellas, peace out. See ya in Ravenloft.